the top girl in the then Narok district. I proceeded on to my high school education in Moi Girls High School in Eldoret, but just for a short stint of 2 years, and had to transfer to the Kenya High School for health-related reasons, and completed my high school in 1998 from the Kenya High School. I proceeded to the University of Nairobi School of Law, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree in law in 2002, and immediately went on to the Kenya School of Law for the Advocates Training Program, where I acquired a diploma in law. And thereafter, in 2004, got admitted to the bar as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. And a few years later, after working for about 5 years, I secured a scholarship to study a Master of Laws in Sustainable International Development in the University of Washington in Seattle, USA. Honorable Chair, and I must say at this point that I consider myself a product of opportunity. And I say this because my father happens to be the only one of his 15 siblings to have acquired an education. And the story is long, but even his having to go to school was by chance. And in that regard, then, there followed a series of opportunities for my siblings and I, including a few of close family members. But the reason I emphasize this is because I have hundreds of cousins and close family members who have not had an opportunity like I did, just because my father had a chance to go to school. And that has been a driving force for me, because having started off as the village girl that I spoke about, up to a point where I had an opportunity to study abroad on a scholarship, the only difference for me and countless other young girls, and particularly from my community, is opportunity. And that has always pushed me to be able to find a space for that next girl, because I know how important it is to afford somebody an environment to explore their potential. Honorable Speaker, coming to my career progress in terms of work, and I will relate it with the docket for which I'm nominated. I must state that my love and passion for environment again began at a very tender age. My father happens to be a very strict environmentalist. I remember growing in the village, I learned from a very early age the value of a tree, because you could not cut the branch of a tree from my father's homestead without his permission. And that set the pace for me to know the value of the environment, the value of trees. And my nomination comes at a time when I think Kenyans and the citizens of the world, we need to embrace environmental ethics if we are to save ourselves. My first job assignment was with a local non-governmental organization called MPIDO, which basically focused on integrated pastoralist development initiatives. And I joined in as a legal officer, and one of my main assignments was public interest litigation, coordinating issues of land and environmental governance. And one of the cases that I got involved in at that early stage of my work was offering technical support and mobilizing resources to support the famous case of the Ilchamos community, centering around the effects of the prosopis plant, that invasive plant that has become a menace, not just for that community, but many other communities in this country. And I think with that early engagement, and it is coincidentally At this point, it is an issue that we must confront as a country, and I think with my interaction then with fact-finding and establishing ways of making sure that these communities do not have to suffer the effects of an invasive plan for which they had no contribution to its existence, sets me in a good place to be able to find a once and for all lasting solution, not just for prosopis. We have many other invasive tree species, like the cactus in the north. We have the hyacinth, which is choking our water bodies, and many others. At that point, I also got to participate in various regional and international fora, still in the area of land and natural resource management and governance. This include the African Commission for Human and People's Rights at the regional level. I also got to participate in various fora of the UN Permanent Forum for Indigenous Peoples, including being a member of the Indigenous Women's Caucus that again focused on matters climate change and the role that women played in matters mitigation and resilience. My second job appointment, Honorable Chair, was in the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs then. I got seconded to the ministry as a UN volunteer specialist, and most of my work revolved around providing technical support in the development of the then National Action Plan and Policy for Human Rights. I also got to engage in developing policy briefs focusing on Kenya's obligations arising from regional and international human rights instruments. And after that, I joined the Kituo cha Sheria. It's an access to justice organization. I joined in as a legal aid coordinator and then again served on a very brief stint as the acting executive director. Most of my work again centered on public interest litigation, supporting indigent Kenyans, and notable cases that we dealt with which relate to the docket for which I'm nominated. I dealt with a case in the Tana Delta ecosystem, focusing on the environmental impact of government projects in very fragile ecosystems. Another one was a matter concerning rampant cancer cases in Marsabit County, largely attributed to oil exploration initiatives in that region. And what we were looking at and prosecuting on behalf of the communities as an interested party, Kituo cha Sheria, was to make sure that we insisted on the sustainability of any initiatives that would be established within community lands. Another case that I remember is a case in Mutomo area of Machakos County, pitting the Mutomo residents against